What's going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we're here doing the treasure map preparation video. So this is going to be involving team builds for teams that I would classify as being a quote-unquote accessible, utilizing not too many, or if any at all, of the brand newly released characters as core members of the team. Obviously, some of the teams are going to be utilizing certain friend captains, as those are the most optimal ways to get through this content. So that's basically what we're doing today. This is going to be the accessible video. I'll have my own treasure map teams built in the coming days. I do aim to do some pulls on the Sugo Fest, but I think I'll be waiting until part 2, and I don't know, there may be a bit of a delay in terms of when I do some pulls. I don't plan on doing that many pulls on the banner in the first place. It's not going to be too crazy, but we'll just see if we can get our hands on some of the new characters. So in this video, as we said, we're going to jump into some team builds, so without further ado, let's get into it. So jumping into the first boss, it's going to be up against the treasure map unit, which is BLUENO BEPO and the Sunny-Kun, and this is the team build that I have here that is quote-unquote accessible. Now I do have Uta and Iza Okiku, which are restricted legends. Those are not really required. Just utilizing the, what's his face, Zephyr. Zephyr as the captain is actually really nice here, just because he's a really solid captain to use. We're also using the treasure map character from last month, which is the Film Gold characters. This unit here is really nice because you can get a defense down conditional boost from them for free, and they also get rid of the bind that occurs for the bottom row, so that's really, really nice. Zephyr is a multi-turn attack booster for shooters, which the Film Gold characters are. However, you do have to deal with 2 turns of special reverse, but it's only for your crewmates. But with this, we can use Sunny-Kun, which deals with the special reverse altogether, which is kind of nice. But, you know, just the characters at the bottom there with Uta and Iza Okiku, they're just kind of filler units. Can be replaced with anything else, but using quick shooters, specifically Zephyr as captain, you've got the Film Gold characters as subs. That deals with most of the gimmicks altogether. So if you have that combo, you're not really going to have too many qualms with the first fight. So here we are with the secondary fight, which is against Katakuri and Oven. Now, for this team, the recommended unit that they want you to use is the new free-to-play treasure map, or the PKA unit, the Beppo, BLUENO, and the Sunny-Kun character. But we're going to be using them a little bit later on. But for this team here, we have Koala, the treasure map legend Koala, as a captain, because she does resist special reverse. Of course, if you don't have that, you need a character on your crew to resist 2 turns of special reverse, or have a captain that can deal with that. If you do have BLUENO, Beppo, and Sunny-Kun, their captain ability does deal with special reverse, but there's actually a lot of special reverse in this treasure map altogether, so we'll be using them a little bit later on because they are a relatively higher point booster. As for the rest of the characters on the team, we are going to just tank the ship bind, but we do have a couple of other useful characters here. We've got the Robin, which can deal with attack down, and because we have a Luffy on our crew, we get a defense down conditional, and it allows us to use the support of that Frankie to give us a defense down effect to the opponent. So, you know, self-procking defense down conditional is awesome. She also gives adjacent slots matching, which is good. Luffy can be an attack booster. Jinbei is a color affinity boost. Obviously, Koala is also color affinity. And then we have Garp, who allows us to generate some matching slots, and he's an orb booster for side characters. So it's actually a pretty good team. You're just using a lot of relatively accessible units. Of course, Koala herself I wouldn't classify as totally accessible. I would say she's more accessible than some of the previous, like the newer characters, like the Shanks, the Luffy, Kobe, etc. But of course, if you don't have a way to deal with special reverse in that captain slot, you just need a character on your crew that can deal with that. So now we get to talk about the Beckman and Lucky Roux, which is just a very frustrating mini-boss, this one is. And you see that we're using Kaido as a captain. I want to shout out to Chaozu in the subreddit Discord for giving us this hint here. Kaido is a really good character to use for this quest, and we'll talk about why in just a moment. But first of all, there's paralysis. The Sanji Judge deal with that, which is great. There's block slots. There's plenty of ways to get around that. We have the Raid Cracker in order to deal with that for us, which is pretty good. There's going to be stun for our bottom row. Luckily, we have the pudding support attached to Sanji Judge, so when we reach the final stage, the pudding support will activate, which will cut our health by 20%, which will remove the stun. There's also special use limit, so you can only use 2 specials on the final stage. That doesn't really matter that much. We do have Pika and Big Mom. Those are completely replaceable. You do not need them. They just give you more damage. But the main reason is why we want to use Kaido is because when you reach this last stage, they actually input a damage limiter where you can only do 80% of the enemy's HP, which means you can only do 80% of their HP and there's the 20% left and you have to kill them on the next turn. It's just like super frustrating. I don't know why they do this for a mini boss. However, Kaido actually circumvents this issue perfectly because the way that Kaido is kind of built, with his captain ability, he automatically launches his special at the start of the quest, and his special says that every time you enter a new stage, he's going to cut the enemy's health by 20%. So what this means is that because you have that effect activated, you move into the final stage, the health cut from Kaido will activate, cutting the enemy's health by 20%, and then it should allow you to fully kill the enemy's HP from that point onwards. Of course, this is all just theoretical at the moment. We haven't actually tested this, but if this does work, then using Kaido as captain is basically the fastest way to get through this, unless if you can somehow utilize Enmazoro, unless if ignited effects are ways to circumvent the issue as well, if Ignite will kill the enemy, but 20% of the enemy's HP is really difficult to get around, so I believe this is going to be the best way forward. We'll have to wait and see once the event actually comes out so we can actually test how we can kind of get around this issue more easily. So now we move on to the final Battle Rush boss, which is Kizaru and Fujitora. Now, we are using a non-boosted character here, which is the 6-star Gear 5, and mainly because there's so many gimmicks in this stupid fight, and Gear 5 just kind of deals with everything. However, this is not going to be double Gear 5. The other captain for this team has to be a captain that can deal with despair in some fashion, whether that be 6+ Gear 5 Luffy, which is a pretty fair option. You could use Gold Roger if you really wanted to, or you could have a character that has a special that removes despair. So because there's bind for the left column for 9 turns, there's special reverse, there is, it's multiple hits of special reverse by the way, 3 turns of special reverse for the top row, 2 turns of special reverse for your crewmates, despair for the top right only. They basically want you to use the new legend Shanks as the captain for this fight, which is kind of annoying because it's not the most optimal way for points and stuff like that. I mean, I guess if you have the full boost, yes, you can do that, but it's just kind of annoying. So if you have Shanks, if you use him as a captain, that's obviously going to be really good, and they really want you to use Shanks as your captain because you see the despair, it's 10 turns of it, but it's only to the top right position, which means that in this crew, our Gear 5 would be despaired here, but if you're able to use your own Shanks and then you could use a friend Gear 5 for example, then that would also work pretty well because Shanks's ability in his super class would allow you to remove despair completely on himself, so that's a way around that. There is also a special use limit on this fight, which is why we have the lead performers. They are only here because of that alone. There's also 6 turns of damage reduction. Frankie gets rid of a fair few turns of it, as well as gives color affinity. Karina gets rid of more turns of damage reduction, and her special actually changes all slots, including block, or changes adjacent and block slots into matching. So because Gear 5 special is most likely not going to be ready, Karina and Frankie help deal with all of that, which is actually really, really good. But you see that when you actually kill the enemy, they're going to revive to 10% and they do 50,000 damage to your crew, and they also put up a tandem barrier effect. So ideally you could just die with Gear 5 Luffy, but depending on how much HP you have, that might not actually work out effectively enough, so you may need to activate the EX Super Special. It is going to be interesting to see how that works, because if you need to activate the EX Super, then one of these characters on the crew will have to be replaced. Of course, this is a very theoretical team. I haven't really tested it. There's no way to test it right now. But in theory, this team should work so long as you have another captain that is able to remove the despair for you. Alright, now we're at the final boss against the Redhead Shanks, and for this team, we are ideally going to go ahead and use the new Kobe as our friend captain. So on Battle 2, there's going to be Special Reverse for 1 turn. Luckily, we have the captain ability of the new PKA unit, BLUENO, Sunny, and Beppo. As you can see right at the bottom there, they reduce 1 turn of Special Reverse, so we don't have to worry about the reverse at all. And then we also have 6 turns of paralysis, which is kind of a lot, but we have Sabo, he removes 5 turns of it. The Karasu support removes an additional 1 turn of that paralysis. And because, remember, with the way that Kobe is built, you can only use his super type if you have 2 or more characters that have Rush, Final Tap, or Super Tandem. In this team, the Sabo and the Luffy, they actually both have one of those potential abilities. So this team actually works out pretty well for even activating the Kobe super type, which is pretty surprising. Now you do see that on death, they do give you 3 turns of attack down on stage 2. So when we move into the next stage, we can just use the Sunny-Kun Beppo special to remove all the attack down, which is not a problem. There is bind, 8 turns of it to the bottom row. So with the sockets, Ace support, and the Valentine Nami support on Zoro, that will remove all of the bind for us. There is also going to be defense up on the enemy side of the field. Zoro's special will remove that. There is also a chain boundary effect or a chain attack down, where if you have 2.75 times chain or less, you will get attack down. Sanji here, if we have a Luffy on our team, which we do, we get chain boundary, and then we have the Jinbei, which gives us a slight chain boost. So Sanji circumvents the chain attack down problem, and even though there is intimidate, it gives -1 turns to chain boundaries. Sanji's special actually gives 2 turns of chain boundary, which is pretty perfect. So he works very, very well for this fight. For getting around that effect in terms of a free-to-play setting. And then, of course, the Luffy is kind of whatever, but we're ideally using Kobe as the friend captain. Remember, Kobe with his special ability gives you color affinity, full board of tandem, and a lot of beneficial effects. And realistically, you could actually switch out your captain to be something else. Like, you could switch Luffy into the captain position if you really wanted to. It is completely up to you at the end of the day. I haven't really tested in terms of the damage that this team can provide. It's going to be a little wonky, I think, but you could put Luffy in the captain position, and Luffy actually does give an attack boost to strength characters, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so it does give a strength attack boost. That's actually really good, so that's probably what you'd want to do. Kobe special on the friend captain and use it so Luffy becomes the captain, use his super type, you get an attack boost, and boom, boom, you're off to the races. So that works pretty well, actually. So pretty solid team build here for a relatively accessible way to beat the new final boss, Shanks. And now we get to the final Intrusion. So this is the Intrusion fight that you'll fight quite often in this treasure map against the Monkey D. Luffy boss. He's a Dex boss, and we're going to be using the Koala again as the friend captain, mainly just because of special reverse, because it's so common in this event, as I was talking about, because like we need special reverse for this stage, special reverse on this stage as well. Like it's super frustrating. But for this fight, Cerebral Slasher fighters are getting cooldown. It's actually interesting because all of the bosses in this treasure map all are focusing on giving cooldown to colors. This is the only fight in this entire treasure map that focuses on giving cooldown to classes only. So on battle 2, there's going to be 2 turns of special reverse only to the crewmates. Of course, Koala can get around that. And there's also a full border block slot, and there's also a barrier where you need to hit him with 2 tandem slots in order to break that barrier. So once again, this team is going to be using Kobe as the friend captain. Ideally, we'd actually just use the Kobe special on stage 2 to give us the full board of tandem slots, and we could just break through and just kill from that point onwards, and then use the rest of our crew specials on stage 3. However, have a look at what happens when you kill stage 2. There is a death hit that inflicts special bind to your crew, and it's 4 turns of special bind to your captains and 7 turns of special bind to your crewmates. Very, very annoying. Luckily, we have the Jinbei here. Jinbei removes a bunch of special bind, 7 turns of special bind for the whole crew, and gives color affinity to strength, psi, and int characters. So the fact that we have Kobe as our friend captain is going to be really, really good here. Another thing is we have Sabro support attached to Luffy. Sabro support is not required, but it does give you a pretty sizable amount of damage increase. So if you have that Sabro support, it gives you more damage. You should definitely use it. If not, it's not the end of the world. There's also going to be more special reverse on battle 3, which is frustrating. Slot bind, 5 turns of slot bind on battle 3. Kobe has slot bind, removes that on himself. Very, very important. There's going to be 4 turns of attack down, which the Chibi characters of BLUENO, Sunny, and Beppo can get around that attack down. 7 turns of damage threshold, which is annoying to get around, but the Zoro special here will remove that, as well as the support of Chopper. That will remove all of the damage threshold. You could alternatively have the Hyogoro support attached to Luffy and use Luffy special on the final stage. That will also work pretty well. And then, of course, you can actually use Kobe special to change one of your captains for 1 turn as well, which you could have done on stage 2. We kind of glossed over that, but that will allow you to do more damage on stage 2, which is pretty nice either way. And there's going to be defense up, which Zoro also removes. Zoro removes the defense and the threshold. He's just a really good character for this fight. So that is a team that should be able to get the job done. Unfortunately, we actually can't even test this on the event island. For some reason, they removed the Intrusion fight testing, which is kind of frustrating because it's really nice to actually see if teams actually work. So that is kind of frustrating. But this is a team that, in theory, should get the job done. In terms of damage, it's going to be wonky once again. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do when you're trying to build quote-unquote accessible teams. So hopefully you guys enjoyed all the teams that we showcased in this video today, with versus Luffy, versus Shanks, and then all of our mini-boss fights, of course, as well. So with all that being said, thank you very much for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As I said, I'll be bringing you guys my own personal teams for this treasure map a little bit later on. Once I've completed my pulls and built my own teams, I'll give you guys a rundown of what I'm doing. But hopefully you enjoyed the video today, and if you guys did, make sure to go ahead and leave a like. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.